And we are back. Avry Sports Show Webcast. Livestream.com/Avry Sports. On a Tuesday evening, want to call into the program once again. Fresh number. The phone lines are back. Do not adjust your sets. Yes, you can call into the program once again. All is right with the world. You know what? U.S. economy? Who cares? We got a new show. We got a new number back. Who cares about the economy right now? You know, that's the biggest thing in the world right now. 714-627-9270. Have a crack at that. Enjoy. Have a blast with that. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, into New Orleans, all on a road trip right now. The road trip from hell. Everybody's calling it. The 9-game road trip. Dropped the first game, 3-2 to Chicago Blackhawks. Now, there are some things in that game were great. Naturally, Yakupov scoring. Fantastic. Bulin, was his play alright? Yes, it was. He didn't lose a game. Wasn't a game that was lost on goaltending. Although, in overtime, Jeff Petrie was very questionable in front of the net. I don't want to say it, but Lazar Schmid was too as well. That was the big thing, because you cannot leave, I said it before, you can't leave Marian Hossa in front of the net alone. He will bury it anytime he gets, and that he did to win for Chicago. Now, people are saying, oh, Ralph Kruger. Anyone who says Ralph Kruger is a clown right now. Jason Strudwick on his show said it best. You know what? Yes, the young guys need ice time, most definitely. I want to see Nail get more ice time. But certain young guys earn the ice time in the same sense. Let's see young guys earn that ice time. It shouldn't automatically be given to you in that same sense. Names should not dictate the amount of ice time you have. And of course, Ryan Smith, watching him play, it's just, oh boy. Ryan Smith is still a step behind the young guys. And what are your thoughts on Ryan Smith right now this year? What are your thoughts? Has he been playing okay? Has been playing terrible? I mean, right now it's just been, you are seeing the age factor catch up to Ryan Smith with every game. I mean, there's been certain games where we've seen the brilliance of Ryan Smith from years gone by. But we're seeing that he's tired. He's broken down. And in the penalty, what's that? And, Chuckleheads, of course, in the chat. Old boys, Borzy and Mike Wilson are back. Like I was saying, though, Ryan Smith, this is a guy, he's a step behind the rest, almost in every instance. And we've seen him take slashing penalties, hooking penalties. It has to really stop. It has to. Will we see Ryan Smith back next year? I don't know. Will Ryan Smith be back when his contract is done? I honestly don't know. I think Ryan Smith, once his contract is up, will retire. So my take on it. What's your take on Ryan Smith right now? There's certain things he can contribute on. The penalty kill, by far, yes. And there are times when he shows he still has great hands. But many other times, you facepalm at his play this year. You do. That's just the honest truth right now with Ryan Smith. And boy, I got a wicked spot of pain right in the forehead for no good reason. Oof! Feels like Ty Domi just cross-checked me right in the temple. That's brutal. That's brutal right now. Don't know what caused that. Anyway, we're saying that Ryan Smith right now, step behind, not great. So will things change? Hopefully it will, because things have to. As we know, we're already a quarter of the way through this 48-game season. But Edmonton, they're only 2 points out of a playoff spot. Good? Yes. But you got so many teams to jump right now in the Western Conference standings. Let's have a look now, shall we, children? We'll go on NHL.com and check out the Western standings. It's a logjam by far. It is an absolute logjam. And the Western Conference almost always is this mishmash of teams from about 7th place to 13th place, only about 2 points away from each other. As we take a look right now. In 8th place, we have Dallas, who's in 8th with 20 points. San Jose is in 9th with 19. Phoenix, 10th, 19. Minnie, 11th with 18. Near Edmonton in 18th. Edmonton in 12th with 18 points. And Edmonton's going to be careful because right behind them is Calgary with 17. And then Colorado with 16 points. That mishmash of just teams battling for the final spot is outrageous. And heck, even Columbus. Is Columbus a bad team? Absolutely. They're not a great team at all. But if you think about it, Columbus has 12 points. Dallas has 8. That's not a huge gap they could close. Is it possible? Highly unlikely. But if you think about it, they're not that far behind. They're not that far. So it's really funny to see how everybody is still fender. What's the word I'm trying to find? Fender bendering each other. Made that up. We're gonna roll with it. So it's interesting to watch, though. It most definitely is interesting hockey. And watching the Western Conference standings, Chicago at 16-0-3. This team is just too insane. They still have not lost in regulation. Still have not lost in regulation. Set the NHL record for most games with a point. They are running away with the first seed in the Western Conference right now with 35 points. Anaheim's in second with 27. And the Canucks are in third with 24. So Chicago right now, their team, I can definitely see them back in the Stanley Cup Finals, most definitely. And then we have out east, as I mentioned before, the Montreal Canadiens, still on top of the Eastern Conference standings. I do it often. I ask you to be honest on the show before. I ask people I want honesty on my program. Now, how many of you, raise your hands, raise your paws, raise your toes, the kids in the chat room, how many of you thought Montreal would be first overall in the Eastern Conference when this season started? Hands up! How many of you thought that, 18 games in, they'd be the number one seed in the Eastern Conference? Or 19 games in? How many? That's right. None of y'all thought they would be the number one team. There's too many factors a lot of people, I guess, thought would be against them in that sense. But they've proven people wrong with a record right now of 12-4-3. So I'll give the Habs a lot of credit in that sense. They battled hard and they've played well. You have to give them props where credit is due in that sense. You have to. Most definitely have to for the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, you got Pittsburgh and Carolina and Ottawa. Ottawa is still hanging strong, even though they lost Erik Karlsson for the season. They lost Jason Spezza for the season. Craig Anderson has a sprained ankle. And they're still the number 4 team in the Eastern Conference. Ottawa has not fallen off. Everybody thought, oh, this season is now done for Ottawa. They're still one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. The AHL call-ups have been playing well. Ben Bishop has been doing phenomenal in net for Ottawa. So, I mean, hey, they haven't let injuries bother them one bit. Certain teams could learn from that. Now, could they? They try and do the Rock eyebrow raise, and they did very unsuccessfully. Yeah, but no, you see Ottawa still playing great after getting everybody banged up. I mean, you may see one day Paul McLean take a puck to the mustache, and they'll still respond with a 4-game winning streak. That's how great Ottawa Senators have been playing right now, even with injuries harming them this year. Haven't been faltered, haven't been stopped. Great stuff to see out of the nation's capital. Absolutely sensational. I'm going to chime in on the show. Here, let me hear your voice. 714-627-9270. This is Avry Sports Show, the webcast on livestream.com/Avry Sports. And of course, other big NHL news coming out is that the Eric Cole trade and the Michael Ryder deal. And of course, realignment. Back in the talks again for the past few days. This realignment, I think, could happen. The last realignment with the 4 conferences was shut down by the NHLPA. They didn't approve it. It was radical. It was unique. We had the ability to have an all-Eastern or all-Western Cup Finals if that original plan was approved. But now, here is the new plan for NHL realignment, which includes 2 conferences. We're going to bring back conferences with just 2, Eastern and Western, and only 4 divisions. So let me pull up right now. I have it here. So, the new alignment that's being proposed for the NHL for next year. We have the Western and Eastern Conference. There are 2 divisions in each. We'll start with the Western Conference. The Pacific Division, it's basically the old school one from the mid-90s. You have Anaheim, Calgary, Edmonton, LA, Phoenix, San Jose, Vancouver. Very familiar. So that's what it basically was back in the mid-90s. That's what Pacific Division used to be. Then we have the Midwest, which is Chicago, Colorado, Dallas, Minnie, Nashville, St. Louis, Winnipeg. Great for time zones. And they're trying to cut down travel costs by putting as many teams from the central and mountain time zones in one conference and in one division. Great ideas. Then, of course, the new proposed Eastern Conference. The new Central Division. We got Boston, Buffalo, Detroit, Florida. Of course, Florida gets the shaft in that. Montreal, Ottawa, Tampa gets shafted too, and Toronto. And the New Atlantic, Carolina, Columbus, New Jersey, the Islanders, Rangers, Philly, Pittsburgh, Washington. Have you noticed? Detroit and Columbus are now Eastern Conference teams. Oh, I find it really weird. How is Boston not in the Atlantic Division when Boston... I don't get that. I would put Boston in the Eastern... I would put Boston in the Atlantic. I can't take them out of the... That is really strange. I would put them in the Atlantic. And I would put Carolina in the Central. That's my 2 cents. Make it a little bit better. Because to put Carolina... What is Atlantic about the Carolina Hurricanes? Someone please answer me that. I don't get it. That to me is a head scratcher. I would not put the Hurricanes in the Atlantic Division. I'm sure that'll be debated as to what the final alignment will look like if the NHLPA does agree to go with this. And then of course, for playoff format, according to a TSN article, this is how the playoff format would go. The top 3 teams in each division will get a playoff berth. The remaining 4 spots will go to wildcard teams. The top 2 records remain in each conference. So there's a possibility of 5 teams in one division making it and only 3 from the other. And then we would start the playoffs with divisional rounds, like the old school back from what you had in the 80s and the early 90s divisional round playoffs. It'll be the number 1 team against number 4, 2 and 3 in the first round. And the 2 4 seeds will be the wildcard teams. So that's cool. Very, very cool to have divisional playoff rounds back if this happens. Then, of course, after this, first round winners meet the second round in division championship. Third round sees Pacific winner versus Midwest winner in the Western Conference, and the Central winner plays the Atlantic winner in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then, of course, the regular season schedule would see teams play every team in the conference, home and away. As the article says on TSN, plan is still tentative as it requires approval from both NHL Board of Governors and NHLPA. I like it. Different, very unique. Well, in that sense. So, but no more a bunch of subdivisions, only 2 divisions for the conference. Of course, now, big question. What will happen to Phoenix? Will Phoenix go? Will they end up? I want Phoenix to end up in Seattle. That'd be nice. Because we mentioned the East is already too top heavy. If we have Detroit and Columbus going east, we need someone in the West to make it a little bit more, make it a little bit more even, which would be great. But we'll see if it gets approved at all. So, interesting type of division situation. So, anyway, folks, this is Avry Sports Show, livestream.com/Avry Sports. Stay tuned. So much more.